Okay, so the project we're going to start today, guys, is a research project on a toxic chemical of your choice. All right. So the idea here is that we're going to look at this from two perspectives. The first perspective is its chemical nature. Right? What kind of chemical is it? Ionic, molecular? Okay. What does it do? Okay. What does it react with? That kind of stuff, like the scientific kind of stuff of the toxic chemical. And then the next thing is, what are the societal effects of this toxin? Okay. How does it affect kind of people in general? All right. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means here in a little bit, but we're going to be looking at this chemical from two different perspectives. Okay, so if you open up the PDF document there, it's the handout that has all the explanation. It looks just like this. Okay, so we're going to go over a couple of things here, maybe make a couple of notes on things you want to watch for. In the assignment itself, okay, you have a choice. You can do this as like a strict report in Google Docs, or you can do it as like a slideshow in Google Slides. The word count requirements are the same regardless of which one you do. All right, so just keep that in mind. All right, you can't just do, oh, I'll just do a Google Slides presentation and that'll be easier because I won't have to type as much. Yes, you will. All right, the word requirements are the same regardless of which one you do. And here's the bummer: Google Slides will not do a word count for you. Google Docs will. All right, so if you're going to do a Google slide, I'd say like type all the stuff you're going to put in your slides in Docs and then copy and paste it over to whatever slides you want. Okay, that way at least you get a word count. Okay, otherwise you won't get one. All right, so back to this. Okay, so in this project, we're going to examine the effect of long-term exposure to a toxic chemical. Okay, that includes not only the health effects of the chemical on the people exposed, but the societal costs as well. That could include things like healthcare, taxation, government regulations, etc. All right, so if, for example, I choose to do my report on let's say crystal meth or something like that. It's a toxic chemical, but it's also a drug. If I choose to do my project on that, then I would want to mention things like societal costs being, even though I don't use crystal methamphetamine, it still affects me as a member of society because people who do generally make poor choices. Well, I mean, first off, they made a poor choice to actually use crystal methamphetamine, but okay, after that, they will also continue to make poor choices because of the nature of the chemical itself. It's addictive, okay, powerfully addictive, and they need to get money to buy it, and they need more of it the more they use of it, and so as a result, they usually resort to crime, and that has a societal effect. What if I'm just innocently walking down the road and I get mugged because somebody who needs their fix doesn't have any money to get it, so they rob me? Okay. That's a societal effect, okay? Their choice, because they're affected by this toxic chemical, is now affecting me, all right? Another thing you could look at would be if somebody was exposed to something toxic involuntarily and ended up in the hospital, that still affects me, even if I don't know this person. Why does that affect me? Yeah, what pays for healthcare? Taxes, okay? Who pays those? Unfortunately, everybody. There's only two certainties in life: death and taxes, okay? So, yeah, it's going to affect me. The more that the healthcare system is used, the more taxes we have to pay in order to pay for it. Because in Canada, we believe, and I think rightly so, that we should take care of each other. All right, so we pay more taxes than, let's say, our neighbors to the south would, okay? Because they don't think that way. All right, they say, if I can afford it, I get healthcare. If you can't afford it, you die. It's sad, but it's true, unfortunately. Okay, there are a lot of people in the United States who cannot afford healthcare, and as a result, they won't go to the hospital when they're sick, and they die. Okay, because they can't afford to go to the hospital, or they go to the hospital because they're so desperately sick, and then they're financially ruined. Okay, because it doesn't take long for you being in the hospital for you to rack up a bill that is like tens of thousands of dollars. Right? Especially if it's including treatment and medications and things like that. It adds up in a hurry. We don't even think about that here in Canada, and that's almost, it's comforting. Okay, we're sick, we go to the hospital. You know, it's taken care of. Okay, I don't have to pay the doctor. Okay, I do that by paying my taxes. Right, that kind of thing. It's a lot different. Okay, it's just a different mindset. Right, but it means then, of course, that the more the healthcare system gets used, the more it affects everybody. Everyone kind of follow on that? Okay, so you got to look at lots of different things. Like if you were choosing to do your report on alcohol, okay, the effects of someone, you know, let's say drinking and driving, right? That affects me. I could be the person they smash into, okay? Or they end up, you know, hurting somebody who then requires an MRI and all these other imaging things. And anyone ever had to wait for like an MRI or something like that? Like the wait is not short. Yeah, you can sometimes wait up to a year if you're not like a priority. Okay, like, and by priority I mean you're not going to die without it. Okay, because they often do triage. The people who need an MRI most desperately get it first, right? So there's a long waiting list, and the more people that get on that list, the longer I have to wait to get my knee looked at, right? Something like that. That affects me indirectly. Everyone follow what I mean by societal effects now? Okay. All right, so so we're not actually looking for, when we say costs, I'm not looking for a dollar figure. Don't try to find a dollar figure. All right, it's nearly impossible to accurately do that, so don't. What I mean by costs is how does it affect everybody? All right, you can say taxes in general, okay, but don't say, well, each Canadian's taxes will go up by X many dollars. They won't. Everybody pays taxes based on their income. It doesn't work that way, okay? All right, so we could talk about impacts of people using or being exposed to the chemical. That could be behavioral costs, addiction treatment, emotional impacts, etc. Okay, if somebody is, you know, addicted to crystal methamphetamine and they commit crimes and get caught, they're going to go to jail. Who pays for that? Taxes. Everybody pays for that. Okay, so if somebody ends up in jail, it costs me money. All right, I got to pay to keep them in there and feed them every day and all that other stuff. Okay, but that's okay. When they're in jail, they're not out committing more crimes. So that's money well spent. Okay? But it's still a societal cost. All right. So the scope of this paper is to go beyond an examination of health issues and encompass the societal effects as well. So some suggestions could be health hazards due to excessive consumption of alcohol, nicotine, or other drugs, exposure to toxic substances, okay, and these two are kind of a joke, okay, mercury in amalgam dental fillings, okay. You guys probably won't even have amalgam dental fillings because they've been essentially phased out, right? But there was this big scam in the States in like the late 90s where these dentists were telling everybody that their metal fillings were killing them because they have mercury in them. Okay, and then they were telling people that the mercury in them would like dissolve and get in your blood and cause all kinds of bad problems. There's more mercury in a can of tuna than there is in a dental filling. And the last time I checked, my dental filling isn't dissolving. They're kind of designed that way, but people believed it, and these guys actually went to jail for fraud. But they caused this whole review of using amalgam, and now nobody uses it. Okay, even though it really wasn't harmful. Okay, like if you swallowed, one of your fillings came out and you swallowed it, it's not like it would poison you. You'd just excrete it along with the rest of the solid waste that you would excrete later anyway, right? So it was, but this is one of the things like you could maybe find stuff on. I wouldn't do it on that because, like we said, it's not really true. Okay, so you could look at things, you know, whatever toxic chemical you want. Okay, drugs are probably the easiest ones because you'll find the most information on them. All right, we could look at environmental concerns related to the handling, storage, and disposal of things like heavy metals, strong acids, flammable gases, or any other topic that you may have interest in. All right, so the outline of the project goes as follows. In your project, you need to report on the chemical nature of your toxin. Okay, so part of your project is this compound is this, and it's ionic or molecular, it's organic, it's produced in this way, okay, all that kind of stuff. Talk about the chemical nature of that chemical, right? What type of chemical is it? Okay, how is its chemical structure related to its toxicity? What is it that makes it toxic? Okay, if you're doing hydrochloric acid, then you'd say, well, it's an acid. It has hydrogen as an ion in it, and that makes it acidic. Okay, how does it cause damage to human tissue? Well, if it's an acid, it reacts with your tissue and dissolves it. If it's a drug, it affects the neural pathways in the brain that causes people to, process differently, and then as a result behave erratically or whatever. Okay. How does it cause damage? What are its toxic effects? What are the symptoms a victim may exhibit? Things like that. Okay. The societal effects, the area is more open, but these two need to be equally weighted in your report. Okay, so you spend as much time in your report talking about the chemical nature as you do about the societal effects. Okay, things to explore may be whether exposure to the toxin is by choice, okay, or in the workplace or in nature, or maybe you don't have any control over it at all. Maybe your water supply gets contaminated or something like that. Okay, what are the costs? And again, we don't want a dollar figure here. We're looking at like load on hospitals, okay, man hours lost to illness. Okay, that's a big one. from a business perspective, if somebody's not at work doing their job, that can cost you money, right? Prime example, if I get sick, okay, a sub comes in for me, right? Okay, I still get paid. I get a certain number of sick days as long as I don't go over those. Okay, I would get paid my full pay for that sick day, and they have to pay the sub. Okay, it doesn't quite cost them double because the sub doesn't make exactly what I make, but okay, they would cost them effectively 1.5 to 1.75 times as much that particular day for this class to be taught. Right, that costs money. Okay, it's a societal cost because, well, teachers' pay comes out of taxes. Right? Does that mean I'm paying myself? That's weird. I hadn't thought about that before. Okay. All right. So those are things to look at. Okay, treatment centers. Okay, if we're seeing a certain disorder or disease that's caused by toxic chemicals showing up a lot more, maybe we need specialized treatment centers. Those cost money. Okay, the staffing costs money, right? Imaging facilities, etc. For society in general. Okay, does the government have regulations related to that toxin? Are there exposure limits? Are there age regulations? Okay, is it legal to actually possess the stuff? Okay, things like that. And then you can have a final kind of short paragraph on your opinion based on what you learned about that toxin. What are your feelings on it? Is it something that should be banned? Should there be lowered restrictions? Okay, whatever, on its use. Questions there? All right. In regards to your references, you're probably just going to use websites for this. So you need to cite your references properly. That is, you have to give credit to the people whose information you steal. Okay? That's not really what you're doing, but you kind of get the idea here. Okay, if I go to a website and I use it for information, I need to give credit to that person. Right? So here's how we do that, and it needs to be in this format. Right? So I'm going to circle it on here. Okay, you need the author's name. That's oddly the hardest thing to find most of the time. Okay, for some reason, people don't always put their names on stuff that they put out on the internet. Okay, if you can't find their name at somebody's blog, use their username. Okay, whatever they've got there. If it's something from a government department, then it may be more than one person. Right. So in that case, if you can't find any names, then you would say multiple contributors from the Center for Disease Control or something like that. Okay, you would have to, because you wouldn't be able to find the actual names, that's what you would have to do instead. Okay, but try your best to find the person's name. And in that regard, if you can't find the name of who wrote it, look at the site you're on. Okay, make sure it's a credible site. Okay, if you're on Crackpot Joe's website about crack, okay, that is probably not the most reputable, reliable website to get information on, because he probably, I don't know, like cooks meth in a bathtub somewhere. Okay, he's probably not the most reliable source of information. So, okay, make sure that you're going to credible websites. Okay, if you're looking at somebody's blog, look at their qualifications. Okay, like if they have no qualifications, they're just some Joe off the street, then it's probably not the best place to get your information from. So be discerning about where you get your information. On that note, please be careful with Wikipedia. Okay, Wikipedia can be edited by anybody, and they are so far behind on their fact checking, they think they're in front of their fact checking. Okay, that's how bad it is. A few years ago, I had a class that was doing this same project, and one kid brought his computer up and he said, "Look, Mr. Coder, it says right here on Wikipedia that Adolf Hitler died of a crystal meth overdose." Okay, yes, Adolf Hitler blew his brains out. Like, he didn't die of a crystal meth overdose. Okay, crystal. Yeah, like it was just completely false, right? But it was on there, and people would treat it as fact because, oh, well, it's Wikipedia. It's, okay. Unless it's something like for sure, like basically your chemical data, I would stay away from it. Okay, it's just not always as reputable and reliable as you might think. Okay. All right, so name of the author, and then the date that the article was posted, hopefully a lot more current than that one, as that is older than you. Okay, hopefully more current than that. And then you'll put the title of the article, not the name of the website, the title of the article, and then the name of the website. Then you will put the URL. Okay, so just copy and paste it. And then the day you accessed it, so that'll be September 13th, 2018. All right. That is the information that you need to have for each source that you get information from, and you need to have a minimum of 5 sources, minimum. Okay, guys, this is the place where people lose marks needlessly every time I assign this project. Okay, instead of doing what I've shown here, people copy and paste in 5 URLs. www.ididn'tlistentomrcoderre.com, www.asaresult-I-will-get-0 on-my-bibliography.com. That might as well be what you put in there if all you're going to put in is the 5 URLs, because I'm going to give you nothing because you didn't follow the proper format for citing references. Okay, you got to find this info for every reference you use. Questions on that, Felix? No, you don't have to put in the quote. No. In fact, I would prefer you are not directly quoting unless it's absolutely necessary. Okay, so in regards to that, guys, what's that?
Just put in the whole page, the whole website.
No, just put this. Okay, like so at the end of your report, you'll have like a references cited slide or paragraph or page. Okay, and that's where you put in these things here. So you'll have 5 to 10 of these. Okay, and that's it. Now, on the note of copying, okay, and things like that, don't do it. Okay, don't copy and paste somebody else's stuff into your report. That's plagiarism. Okay, you don't learn anything that way, and it's illegal. All right, so we don't want to be plagiarizing stuff. And honestly, guys, like every year I catch somebody doing it, and it's like I feel insulted when I catch them. Okay, like one time I actually brought the kid's report to him and said, "Can you please explain this to me? It's over my head." Should I ever say that to a Science 10 student? This report, I don't understand because it's far too complex for me, because it was somebody's doctorate level thesis on the effects of some drug on neural pathways and neurotransmitters in the brain. That was what I could glean from it. That was about the only thing I understood. Okay? He's like, "Well, no." I'm like, "Well, if you can't explain it to me, how did you write it?" The answer was, of course, he didn't. He just copied and pasted, and it was blatantly obvious. Like I just said, like, "Do you think I'm that stupid? Don't answer that." Okay? Yeah. Okay. Don't copy and paste somebody's stuff. I'll know. Okay? I can tell when a 16-year-old writes something versus not. Okay? So write it yourself. You learn more that way. The point of this is to learn something. Okay? Plus, plagiarism will become a habit. If you do it once, you'll do it again. Okay? And it'll get you in big trouble. I went to school with a guy who got kicked out of university because he got caught plagiarizing on one of his major papers. Okay? And that is like tossed, no refund, you are out of here. Okay? And that follows you around like a criminal record when you apply to other universities. Okay? He was basically screwed after that, so you don't want to do it. Okay, so 5 marks for your bibliography. So make sure you do it right. It's 5 easy marks if you follow this format. Okay, I also want to see some planning. Okay, and here's what I want to see for planning. First, I want to see an outline or a thought web. You can choose whichever way your brain works better. Okay, is fine with me. So if you want to outline it, like paragraph 1, talk about this, paragraph 2, that's fine. Or if you want to do a thought web with, you know, Mercury in the middle and little bubbles coming off of that, whatever works for you, that's fine. But I want to see either one or the other. And I want to see a timeline. Okay, so I want to see something laid out about, okay, I'm going to work on it. You can put September 13th, work on it in class. Okay, you can also put September 14th, work on it in class, because we're going to work on it tomorrow too. All right, and you might want to put beside those, you know, like find information on this or start introductory paragraph, something like that. Okay, a timeline that outlines when you're going to work on it. Okay, and you can, you know, kind of plan it a little bit, or you can fill it in as you go. All right, that's fine too. But in the end, you need to have it there. If you don't have it there and you're just about to hand it in, fake it, put it in there. It's 5 marks. Okay, you need to have planning in there. All right, I didn't say that, but yeah, you don't want to lose those 5 marks, so plan. Okay, so either a thought web or an outline, one or the other. Everybody has a timeline as part of their planning. All right, that can go in also near the end of your report. Okay. So the format for this, okay, obviously it says PowerPoint there, but it's Google Slides. Okay, you know what I mean. Okay, essays written. Don't do a video. Don't do a movie. It's way too much work. okay, is way too much work and planning and timing and filming, and it's not, for this project, not worth it. Okay, just not worth it. If you have another format in mind, you can run it by me, but posters are not going to be good enough. Okay, we have a minimum word count here that we'll talk about. Okay, your project needs to include visual aids. Okay, you need to have pictures in your lab report, or graphs or charts or something, okay, that is going to help support what you're talking about in there. Right. So scope of this project. Okay, your project should be between 800 and 1,000 words minimum. Okay, that, like, 800 words is just like one page in the Google Docs default. Okay, like 12-point font, 1-inch margins. Okay, it'll be like one page. You are not going to get 100%. In fact, you're probably going to get like 65 if you only have 800 words. Okay, you want to do a good job of this, you're probably looking at closer to 1,500 words, which is more like a page and a half to 2 pages. Okay, single space, default kind of stuff. All right, everybody with me there? You'd be surprised how quickly you get to 1,500 words, okay, once you get going. So just keep that in mind, and you're not counting your bibliography in that word count. Okay, that's the report itself. I forget where I was going with that. Anyway, okay, 800 to 1,000 words is the bare minimum, but you'll probably want more than, oh, now I remember where I was going with that. Let's try not to go over 3,000. Okay, I will have, a whole class set of these to mark, and if everybody's is 5,000 words, it's going to be really hard for me to turn that around to you quickly. So let's say, let's keep them shorter than that. If it gets over like 2,500 words, I'm probably not going to read it all. Okay, you should be able to do this project effectively 1,500 to 2,000. That would be, you do a great job of it in that range. Okay. All right, and then, so here's the 5 categories you'll be marked in. So initiating and planning, 5 marks. Okay, so that's what we talked about: the outline or thought web and the timeline, 5 marks. Analysis and interpretation is, I'm reading through your report, and what you've written down is factual. You've assembled it in a way that makes sense. You've covered the things you were supposed to cover, the chemical nature, the societal effects, all of that is in there. Okay, that's 5 marks. Right? Communication. When I'm reading your report, I can read it. All right, and I don't mean like, because they're all going to be submitted electronically. I mean, it flows. Okay, when I'm reading it, I'm not stumbling over grammatical errors, spelling mistakes, okay, things like that. Like, it needs to sound like a 16-year-old wrote it. Okay, not like my 8-year-old wrote it. Okay, although my 8-year-old's pretty good at writing, but okay, it needs to make sense when I'm going through it. All right, like, I'll give you an example. I once got one of these in, and I kid you not, it was a 1,500-word sentence. It had a capital letter at the start and a period at the end, and no other ones anywhere along. Okay, it was a sentence that was 1,500 words long. Right? It was really hard to follow because there was just no breaks and no tying of ideas together. It just went on and on and on, right? So yeah, make sure that you're making it so that it communicates what the message you want to send effectively, right? That's 5 marks. Research and investigation is your bibliography, okay? That's what we talked about with the author's name and all that kind of stuff. That's 5 marks, okay? If you don't do that in the right format, that mark will drop fast. Okay, and then overall, okay, that is, I get done the report and I go, wow, that was very informative. That was, put together well. There were really good visual aids that really helped with what they were saying, that kind of stuff. It's like your general impression kind of a mark. All right, everybody follow there. Okay, one of the big things with overall is flow. Okay, if your whole project is point form, okay, that doesn't flow. Right, that'll affect this mark. Right, I'm not looking for a bulleted list, 1,500 words long, okay, about this toxic chemical. Right, so try and avoid bullets, 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 bullets. Have paragraphs with segues to the next one and stuff like that. Questions there? All right. Sorry, Megan, question. Yes, I want it all in there. Yeah. Now, if you do it on paper, like as a thought web, do what you did with the, just take a picture of it and insert the picture into the presentation or document. Okay. All right, couple things about choosing your chemical. It needs to be a chemical, okay? It can't be a bacteria, all right? Because I've had people who go, I'm going to do this on E. coli. Well, E. coli is a bacteria. Now, the chemical the bacteria produces is toxic. You could do that, all right? I also had someone who said, well, I want to do my project on marijuana. Okay, but marijuana is a plant. I'm looking for what's the toxic chemical in it, okay? THC, yeah, okay, that's what we're looking for there, right? So we need to make sure we're focusing on the chemical and maybe not where it comes from, okay, just as clarity. This chemical needs to be chemically toxic. Radiologically toxic is different, all right? So like plutonium and uranium, they're toxic in a different way. They're not chemically toxic, okay? They are radiologically toxic, and that's entirely different. All right, so chemically toxic. Okay, if you're not sure, then before you get too far in, talk to me and call me over. All right, any other questions before you let you go? Okay, so get started on that. We'll have today and we'll have all class tomorrow. I won't talk at all tomorrow. You'll get the whole class tomorrow.